All right, guys and girls, we're going to start our math lesson for the day. And for today, our math lesson involves us taking down some measurements, measuring some different items to the nearest whole inch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take those measurements and we're going to create a line plot graph so we can try and determine which objects are the longest and how many of each of those objects we might have of that measurement. All right, so first off, let's do a little talking about what time of the year is it. All right, so right now we have a holiday coming up, and that holiday is Easter. For those of you that celebrate Easter, it is Easter. All right, and a lot of times people at Easter, particularly kids, you guys, what you guys receive might be some Easter baskets, and in those Easter baskets might be all kinds of different items. Might be some toys, might be some small little games, but mostly what there's in there might be some Easter eggs, but there's definitely some treats, some candies, and things of that nature of some sort. All right, if you're like me, you're a fan of candies. My favorite candy as a child was Milky Ways. What I want you guys to do is just take a minute and talk to your neighbor next to you, your shoulder partner, and think about the different types of candies you like to find in your Easter basket. Okay, so good job talking amongst yourselves, trying to determine what your favorite candy bars might be in an Easter basket. I heard a lot of good responses as well. I heard Twix, I heard Three Musketeers, some of you said M&Ms, some of you said Skittles, some said they didn't like candy at all, which is perfectly fine. That's totally up to you. Whatever you might like and enjoy and want to put that in your basket or receive in your basket is awesome. So, there's a lot of different ways we can keep track of those treats and things of that nature that we get. We can, of course, we can group them by the types of items. They could be all chocolates, they could be all sour types of candies, things of that nature. We can group them by the number of candies that we can get. We can also measure the size of the candy bars they get. So for what we're going to be doing today, we're going to try and measure the size of the candies that we're going to get. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure some different items, and then we're going to create a line plot graph. Now, we worked with measurements before, measuring to the whole inch using a ruler and doing that, but we've kind of sort of messed with line plot graphs. You may recall or not, so what I have for you guys to watch is a little bit of a video on line plot graphs. So let's go ahead and watch.
Hey guys, I am over here. Come closer. I am the number 1, and I am going to learn about line plots today. Would you like to learn about line plots with me? Great! Let's go over here to collect our data for the line plot. We are going to get our data by measuring the lengths of some objects that I have. We will then write the data we collect on a piece of paper and use that data to make a line plot. My friend Speedy will bring us some objects to measure. Here we have a pencil, and we need...
Alright, so the first thing you can see in the video right here, they're using a ruler. And what side of the ruler are they using? Are they using the inch side, or are they using the metric side? That's right, they're using the inch side. Alright, and that's what we're going to be measuring with today. We're going to be using a ruler, and we're going to be measuring on the inch side. So we have a ruler. You all are going to have a ruler, and the inch side is at the top of my thumb right there. So when we measure our items, you see the demonstration, they brought a pencil. Did they put the pencil all the way to the edge or the erasers hanging off the side? No, you can see they put the eraser's tip all the way at the 0. So we want to make sure that when we're measuring, we're all starting in the same areas. All right? To make sure we get a true measurement.
To measure the length, we will be measuring to the nearest whole number. Can you tell me the length of the pencil?
Alright, so you can see to the nearest whole number, again, the eraser's to the 0, going all the way to the end of the pencil, we can approximate, and it looks that it's 2 to the 6, to 6 inches. It might be just a little short, but again, we're measuring to the nearest whole number. So each one of these big numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 12, are the nearest whole numbers. All those little dashes and signs and lines in between, we know that those are eighths of an inch, quarter inches, half inches. But what we're doing today is measuring to the nearest whole.
The pencil is 6 inches long. Great job. Here we have a marker. How long is it? The marker is 6 inches long. Here we have a book that is 9 inches long. Hey Speedy, can you bring us one more thing? It looks like Speedy wants to be measured. What is the length of my friend Speedy? Speedy, it looks like you are 4 inches long. I have already measured several other objects before you got here, and I have all of our measurements included on this board.
So I'm going to pause the video once more. So after we get done measuring all of the things that we want to measure, all right, we're going to do the same thing as they do in the video. We're going to keep track of those measurements. Because again, we're going to take those measurements and put them on a line plot graph.
Each number is a measurement of the length of an object. We need to put this information into a line plot so we can see this more clearly. To start out the graph, we first need a title. What do you think we should call this line plot? Object measurements or colors?
So, you think about it, they measured objects. They didn't measure colors. So when we create our graph, depending on what we're going to be measuring, and we said we're going to be measuring Easter basket treats, we're going to have to come up with a title. So the title of this graph is objects because that's what they measured, not colors. Our graph, we're going to come up with a title as well. And as a group, we could decide that. But again, it has to be related or go with what we're measuring.
I agree, we should call it object measurements since it is about measurements of objects. Next thing we need when doing line plots is a straight line. All of our information we collected was measured in inches, so here to the side we will put inches. Okay, here we have the numbers from 1 to 9 listed.
Alright, so you can see, and ignore the little things on the bottom that says other types of videos that are up. They made sure on their line plot graph, first the title of what they're measuring. The next thing they put at the end of the first line they drew was the measurements. They used inches. Do you remember what we're going to be using? That's right, we're going to be measuring in inches. If we were measuring in centimeters or millimeters, that's what we would write. But since we're going to be doing inches, we're going to write inches. Now, they labeled their line here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All the way up to 9. Now, we're going to be using a foot-long ruler, all right, and it's divided up into 12 inches. Why do you think they only have their line here labeled up to 9? Take a second, talk to your neighbor. Why do you think their line is only up to the number 9? That's right, I heard a few of you talking amongst each other and said because they didn't measure anything bigger than 9. That's correct. Everything they measured was somewhere in between 1 inch and 9 inches. If they measured something that was 12, then this line would be longer and would count up to the number 12. Good job.
So we can show our data. So now we look at our data to help us fill in the line plot. We can see that we only had one item that measured 2 inches, so we put 1x here to represent that item. We had 2 items that measured 3 inches, so we have 2 x's on top of each other to represent those 2 items. There were 3 items that measured 4 inches, so we have 3 x's on top of each other. We had 4 items that measured 6 inches, so we put those x's down as well. We only had one object that measured 9 inches, so just 1x.
So what you can see, they kept track of everything that they measured and that they used an X to show the item. So they only had one thing measured 2 inches. So 1x. How many things did they have measured 3 inches? That's right, they had 2 things. So what they did, they didn't write the number 2 above 3, they made a mark for each item. So you could count them. 1, 2. 3 things that measured 4 inches, 3 X's, 3 marks, 3 tallies. They had 4 things that measured 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 things that measured 6. And then only 1 thing measured 9. So that's why there's only 1 X right there.
This is awesome, guys. We just made a line plot that shows the measurements of the objects that I have. When we see a mark above a number, it tells us how many times that number occurs. For example, we can see that above the 4 we see 3 X's, which means there were 3 objects that measured 4 inches long. So with this information, can you guys tell me how many objects did we have that measured 6 inches long?
You guys know.
Great job! We had 4 items and we can see that in this line plot. We look at the 6 and above the number we see 4 X's, which represent the 4 items that measured 6 inches. Great job, guys! Thanks for your help. We'll see you next time. Goodbye!